Imagine building an awesome business system with state-of-the-art controls, but over time, things start to break. Except nobody realizes it because everyone assumes it's working fine. If you don't monitor the process, you'll never be able to fix it when it breaks. Here's how to do it right. Welcome back to this series on the 17 principles of the COSO Internal Control Integrated Framework, where we break down each principle in plain language and connect it to real business, risk, audit, and governance situations. In this clip, we're looking at Principle 16, which sits under the monitoring activities component. Principle 16 states that the organization selects, develops, and performs ongoing and/or separate evaluations to ascertain whether the components of internal control are present and functioning. Essentially, it mandates a continuous health check to confirm your corporate guardrails haven't broken down. In plain language, this means we don't just set and forget our work rules, safety checks, or system permissions. Think of it like your car's dashboard. You need real-time, ongoing warning lights telling you if an engine component fails right now, combined with a scheduled, separate professional inspection by a mechanic once a year to double-check the underlying machinery. The dashboard warning lights are the ongoing evaluations that flag issues as they arise. The professional inspections are the separate independent evaluations that provide a fresh pair of eyes. Principle 16 is under the monitoring activities component. Within this pillar, it serves as the operational motor and links seamlessly with Principle 17, which covers evaluating and communicating deficiencies. Principle 16 acts as the investigative machinery that gathers data on control health and establishes the baseline of what's broken. Once an evaluation under Principle 16 identifies a gap, Principle 17 takes over to formally package, escalate, and track the remediation of that deficiency. From a management science lens, it acts as the organization's sensory nervous system. A couple of key concepts. Entropy is a measure of how energy is dispersed in a system. Entropy tends to increase, that is, ordered systems tend to become less organized over time unless energy is added to the system to maintain that order. The 3 lines of defense is a model that provides some separation within an organization to facilitate the kind of evaluations we're talking about here. Management is the first line, operating the controls. A second line compliance or quality assurance function monitors controls and provides that real-time dashboard. And the third line, internal audit, performs independent and objective reviews based on risk or management request. Sometimes the first and second lines are operationally merged. The 3 COSO objectives, operations, reporting, and compliance, are the 3 categories that organizational objectives typically fit into. Let's look at how this principle applies across these objectives. For operational objectives, evaluations ensure that workflows and resource allocation do not degrade into inefficient bottlenecks. Grounded in systems theory and the check phase of the plan, do, check, act loop, this applies when a plant manager reviews equipment calibration exception logs to catch manufacturing line performance drops before they stall production. For reporting objectives, evaluations focus on validating the mechanisms that process financial data and management metrics. Because human data handlers have limited cognitive bandwidth, a financial controller might apply this principle by implementing an automated script that scans the subledger reconciliation schedule every month, not to check the individual transactions, but to monitor and flag whether those critical reconciliations were actually performed on time and signed off by supervisors. For compliance objectives, monitoring verifies that corporate policies remain tightly aligned with ever-changing statutory mandates. Grounded in behavioral psychology, we know employees naturally develop workarounds to strict rules over time. This principle applies when compliance teams run quarterly monitoring audits on system access rights to guarantee that only current certified employees can access heavily regulated customer data. Weaknesses in this area can expose the organization to structural decay. If monitoring is weak, 3 things often manifest. A tick-in-the-box culture where supervisors sign off on evaluation checklists without due diligence, creating an illusion of compliance while hidden systemic failures compile. Organizational entropy takes over. Without the active energy input of ongoing monitoring, controls may deteriorate due to turnover and distraction. And management may confound execution with evaluation. If a company boasts that its controls are great because they reconcile accounts every month, but nobody evaluates whether those reconciliations are accurate or cleared of exceptions, blind spots can go undetected. Controls related to this principle focus specifically on evaluating other controls. Some key examples can include an automated configuration block within an audit tracking software that stops an evaluation checklist from being closed if mandatory testing work papers are not attached. A system-enforced logic block in the ERM portal preventing operational units from altering risk and control matrices without corporate compliance approval. Role-based access controls that structurally separate compliance testing personnel from the daily business process owners to ensure objectivity. Monthly automated exception logs that flag any instance where a critical daily reconciliation control sheet wasn't signed off within 48 hours of its deadline. Data analytics scripts run by corporate risk that compare general ledger postings against approved user profile logs to check if individuals bypass segregation of duties parameters. Formalized evaluation variance protocol, forcing the immediate redeployment of a design team to overhaul a department's control suite if quarterly evaluations show a critical control failed more than twice. Automated system rollback and alert routing workflow that revokes a supervisor's approval privileges if a QA review finds they approved entries without opening the validation files. Annual master service agreements with an independent external advisory firm to perform separate evaluations of highly technical environments, transferring some of the liability of evaluation omissions to certified domain specialists. An organization that does this well might have dynamic risk-adjusted evaluation matrices where the frequency of checks fluctuates based on real-time risk indicators, or automated monitoring dashboards showing live control execution compliance rates rather than static spreadsheets, and evidence of second-line quality assurance testing the effectiveness of management's reviews. For management, this principle demands a shift from performing daily operations to architecting feedback loops. Management must formally define the baseline of what effective control performance looks like, structurally separate execution from inspection so that people aren't checking their own work, and actively leverage continuous auditing and continuous monitoring technologies. Relying exclusively on manual, retrospective, quarterly sampling is no longer sufficient in fast-moving digital environments. For auditors, this is where professional skepticism gets meta. Internal auditors must critically evaluate management's assessment of their own control design and operational effectiveness. If a control broke, why didn't management's ongoing monitoring catch it first? While internal audit is often the definitive delivery vehicle for separate evaluations, auditors must take care to maintain independence and objectivity and be mindful of taking on management activities. Management generally must own their own ongoing evaluations, leaving internal audit independent to evaluate the framework objectively. For the board, particularly the Audit and Risk Committee, Principle 16 is the primary tool used to overcome information asymmetry. Because executive management operates the business day to day, a data gap naturally forms. This principle guarantees the board receives objective, verified data regarding whether its corporate defenses are functioning rather than simply accepting verbal assurances. The board fulfills its fiduciary duty by demanding regular reporting on the scope, frequency, and results of continuous monitoring logs. The key takeaway is that internal control is a living, breathing system, and Principle 16 is the pulse check that ensures your organizational defenses don't quietly die behind the scenes. Thanks for joining me in this exploration of COSO ICIF Principle 16. Leave a comment below and click the like button if you found this useful, and subscribe to my channel for more videos on this topic. In the next video, we'll look at Principle 17, the last principle in the COSO ICIF series, focusing on how we communicate and remediate the control deficiencies we find.